Hello everyone, this is the introductory session of the Astrobiotechnology class, a new class by the Futuristic Research Cluster of Free Lab in Thailand. This is the second recording due to the technical issue in the class. My name is Pat. I am one of the creators for this class and also a member of the MIT Media Lab. Before I introduce the class, I would like to share a little bit about myself and how it's related to this class. At the Media Lab, I have been working at the project that are at the intersection of wearable technology and biotechnology. For example, this is a project funded by NASA and the Translational Research Institute for Space Health. We're looking at a wearable lab on the body, a platform for continuous monitoring of human biomarkers. The motivation behind this work is that we would like to think about the future of technology where we can take the process, the diagnostic process done in the laboratory and put it in a wearable device that could actively and continuously monitor different types of biomarkers that are related to health condition or disease on the body all the time. The way that we have been doing it is through prototyping this wearable device that has a tube that goes inside your mouth and collects saliva and to place on the biosensor, so we can continuously kind of sample your saliva and look for biomarkers inside that. This is definitely related to space exploration because there's no hospital in space, right? So you need to be able to have devices that allow astronauts or people living in space to be able to kind of have the information about their health and be able to have it being monitored continuously. Other type of research that I've been doing is at the idea of human-computer interaction, where we're looking at different ways that computer can weave itself into human life. For example, this is a project where we were using the signal from EEG to determine which type of food and which kind of 3D printed food we can give it to the user. So we were translating the EEG emotional signal from the brain into the shape and size and type of 3D printed food. This work is recently published in the Future Technology Conference, and we are really excited about this work. Beyond that, I'm also part of the team that designed the Hormone Couture project, a project that integrates biosensor into 3D printed fashion. In this research, we were looking at a way that we could use bioinformation to visualize it on the 3D printed fashion. And we are imagining the future where the information from the body could be displayed through this interactive dress that we are designed. And in this case, we are reading the the body temperature, which can correlate to the fluctuation of the hormone inside the body, and we are visualizing it through the 3D printed piece that are attached to the dress, and this 3D printed piece will kind of change its behavior based on the hormone level. Finally, one of my research that I collaborate with people at Nanyang Technological University, ASU, and one of my friend that was running the CubeSat project for NASA is looking at the way that we could integrate robot with biological material. One thing that is very special and unique about biological system is that it could heal itself. It could reproduce and be able to do all kind of self-regulation. So we imagine that this process could also be integrated into robotic as well. So what we prototype is a robot that are partially biological and partially electronics. In the biological side, we were using microbial cellulose, which is basically a biopolymer generated by bacteria. These biopolymer are very interesting because they are regenerative in the sense that if you tear it apart or cut it out, and you can kind of throw it back into the bacteria, and the bacteria will be able to kind of regrow it and kind of fix the material through the creation of microbial cellulose. And we have been integrating flexible electronic inside this biopolymer, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to see this type of robot that can heal itself and be able to regenerate, having biological properties. This work is also published in the IEEE Flexible Electronics, and we really excited about this type of research. So to conclude, my research is at the intersection of human-computer interaction, looking at the way that the human body can interface with technology and computer. This is also one of the key ideas for space exploration, as human body is very fragile, and to be able to go into space, we human must somehow integrate with machine, the protective technology that we put on ourselves. So these ideas that I've been working on are very futuristic and are somewhat inspired by science fiction. As you might know, space science fiction like Star Trek give a lot of inspiration to modern technology, from phone to tablet to, or even Google Glass, right? This idea of human and technology in the future have been one of the theme that always kind of that are recurring theme of sci-fi. And speaking of sci-fi, one of the most one of the most interesting idea that actually influenced the design of a spacesuit that astronaut and people working in space are using today is the idea of cyborg, right? The idea that human will have part of his or her body be the technological part. The idea of cyborg stand for cybernetic organism. You may have seen some of these in science fiction where you have like half human half robot all the time. Very exciting. This idea is actually not an old idea. Well, it's also a historical idea. It was presented in the 90s by Manfred Klein, right? He present the argument for cyborg and space, thinking about the cybernetic organism that allow itself to be integrated with technology in order to survive in space. And this is 9 years before Apollo 11, so it was very futuristic at that time. On that time, the computer system was huge and it take the whole room space. So by thinking about human integrating with technology was really forward thinking back then. So what Manfred Klein was presenting was the idea of an osmotic pump that would allow the mouse to regulate its chemical naturally without actually kind of having human intervene or having to do it themselves. So this idea of having technology as the extension of the body has been one of the key theme that push the limit of human and machine symbiosis, and give rise to the idea of cyborg. And that was one of the kind of inspirational idea behind the spacesuit that we know today. So going to the Astrobiotechnology class, this is a very first time that we are offering it. It's like a very experimental class. We are experimenting it as we are teaching it. So please bear with us with all the issue and other hurdles. We are prototyping it as we go, as you guys know as well. So this class is very exciting because we are bringing two things that are very powerful. One is biotechnology and another one is space exploration. By bringing this unique combination together, we hope to be able to stimulate new type of discussion, coming up with new exciting projects, and hopefully become the model for the astrobiotech class in the future. So when we think of astrobiotechnology, there are two things, right? So first, when we think about space exploration, people usually think of NASA or Apollo 11 or spaceship and so on. This year we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11, right? The 50 years ago we put human on moon in space. Really exciting, but one thing is different, as you might have seen in this picture. Is a Hello Kitty doll in the stratosphere, right? Doesn't look like a NASA project or project from any scientific organization, because it's actually a project by a girl that was really interested in space and also happened to like Hello Kitty. She, along with her support from her family and other scientists, will be able to build this scientific citizen science payload to send the kitty cat into space. And this is actually the spirit of the current space technology. We are living in the era where space is not about military or established research organization anymore. We are at the point where citizen or everyday people can engage in space exploration research. Um, and one of the key driving force behind this citizen space era is also the commercialization. The famous Elon Musk have pushed a lot of his resources to space a company to come up with affordable rocket launch through recyclable rocket system that can be reused and reused again. This still something that will require more times to develop, but it's really demonstrating the promise of the future, that space will be more accessible and democratized to people from all walk of life. And not only Elon Musk, there are also companies from around the world, including Thailand, like SpaceUp, New Origin, New Space, Blue Origin, SpaceX, and company from Japan, Europe, US, Asia. All of these are really pushing the new space race, which is really exciting. So in the future, when we look at Mars or Moon or other planet, it's not going to be just an empty planet anymore. We will see the space full of emerging civilization, the space civilization, right? So people will be able to travel to space uh, more and more easier in the future. And when we get there, we need to think about other things beyond just space and rocket ship, right? We need to think about how are we going to live there? How are we going to establish resources that allow us to survive on this extreme environment? And that brings us to the biology, right? We need to think about the biological need of the human, from food to environment to health and so on. We need to do agriculture to make food. We need to have some sort of exercise to stay healthy. We need to transform some of the harsh environment to human friendly environment. We need to be able to produce medicine, sense the health condition of the people, and be able to design technology that allow us to adapt to it. So by bringing this unique combination of biotech and space exploration together in this astrobiotech class, we hope to stimulate exciting research. For example, you know, uh, some of the idea that I'm going to talk about in this biotech section is not just about alien life, right? Biotech in space is not just about finding life in space, but also how do we, introduce life in space, bringing human life and other life from this planet Earth to adventure with us into, in other planet that we go and colonize. So when people think of biotechnology, people usually think of two things: is either healthcare or agriculture. But today, biotech has gone beyond that. If you've seen this article in Fast Company recently, actually 2017, well, it's still very recent. This is the article that talk about the landscape of biodesign industry, which also include biopharmaceutical industry, genetic engineering, CRISPR, and so on. This emerging field of biological design and biotechnology is really exciting. One of the key driving force for this idea of biodesign is the idea that we could look into the living organism and find genetic circuits and metabolic pathway responsible for the creation of different of chemical output, from making human insulin to create fuel, create electricity, create medicine, and so on. We'll be able to pinpoint in the living organism genetic code that we could reprogram so to enhance the property of the living organism. This picture is actually come from Microsoft research, and it's actually a call for for the biologists to join the Microsoft research team to envision the future of biological computation. Microsoft also recently published a paper in Nature on using DNA storage to store information, right? So in the future, data storage might be biological based. Really exciting. But beyond Microsoft, we also see this type of trend in IBM, Google Life Science, and even Samsung Biologics that has a huge facility dedicated to biological product. So these huge tech company are becoming more and more engaged with the life science and the biological science. So we are seeing the turn from electronics to biologics, right? This analogy made by the BioBreak Foundation, looking at the way that we could, visualize biological part in the same way that we visualize electronic part. The idea of abstracting this genetic circuit so that we can program and re-engineer them is really exciting. And another reason that this thing is also kicking off is that these things are becoming standardized, right? You have a bio brick that can kind of snap together and form a larger and more complex gene circuit. You have people discover different part of the genetic pathway that allow you to engineer, different type of regulation, different type of control system that will allow you to produce the product that you there's also a more precise way to engineer and edit genome, right, with CRISPR, Cas9, and new CRISPR engineering system that will allow us to precisely engineer the genetic circuit. And finally, the community of people doing this is also growing as well. There's the iGEM, which is the International Genetically Engineer Machine Competition, kind of like the Olympic of the genetic engineering world, is also kicking off as well. Beyond that, researcher, designer, artist, scientist, social scientists, and so on are working on many exciting biological design projects that intersect biology, genetic engineering, design with autofield, and also had aesthetic inside them. For example, this is a biologic project where they print bacteria cell on the fabric. When the bacteria cell kind of absorb the humidity of the environment, in this case it's a sweat coming out from the body to the fabric, the bacteria cell can also grow and shrink, right? And that drive the the animation of the dress. It allows the dress to open and close based on the human condition. And this is really exciting, really beautiful, and really showing the emerging area of biodesign. Beyond bacteria, researchers also prototype with plant. This is a project where they look at the housing in the future. So instead of cutting the plant or cutting the tree to make the house, what if we can design a symbiotic relationship where the house can be grown as part of the tree itself, and inside the house you can have furniture and everything that you would expect in a normal house, but it is kind of grown as part of the biological system. We can also see uh, algae, right, that people have been integrated into built environment, from architecture to furniture. These algae have been used to through photosynthesis to produce oxygen, electricity, and fuel, and other type of output that would be beneficial for human. And these things have been integrated more and more into our daily life. So as Professor Nicholas Negroponte, the pioneer of the digital revolution, has said that bio is the new digital. We really need to think beyond the conventional biotech, and look for opportunities that we can bring this to space to enhance and uh, augment our survival in space. So in our astrobiotechnology class, we're excited. We kind of divide the class into three sections. From launching to space, to living in space, and experimenting with space. So in the launching to space, we will look into the basic foundation. How would one go and go into space? What kind of biological foundation would allow us to engineer biological system for space exploration? And what are the history of human attempt and human journey into space. In the living in space, we'll look into technology for supporting human life. We'll look into space food. How do we grow something in space? Space agriculture, space medicine, and how do we design the healthcare system for astronaut and beyond. And finally, in the experiment in space, we will look more into experimentation process and case study where researchers have been prototyping and pioneering this human space exploration. And we hope to end each section with a workshop where the student get to participate in hands-on experiments and design thinking workshop that allow you to engage much deeper with the content for each section. And finally, in the final week, we will have the presentation of the final project that the student kind of would learn throughout this process. We have the staff to support them and be able to come up with exciting cool space project. um, Astrobiotechnology class is not a class just about the lecture. We would like to aim for the student to actually make something, make prototype, make tangible thing that could be used to kind of investigate further. And some of the questions that we'll be asking in this class, is ranging from something like, how can we grow rice on Mars? Because this class is offered in Thailand, and we really think that we would like to bring the Asia kind of way of thinking, way of living into space exploration as well. We would like to, envision how would we bring the unique cultural background of, Southeast Asia into space exploration. So there will be some culture and some cultural element that would be integrated into the lecture and the research question that we are asking throughout the class. Another question would be something that are more universal and more radical. For example, how can we engineer the human body to live in space, right? So this project that I'm showing here was a project by Professor Neri Oxman at the MIT Media Lab. She was printing the microfluidic channel as the external human organ that would allow the bacteria that produce oxygen and other new supporting material to grow inside this and become the symbiotic machine that allow human to travel into space. And she have been exploring this area of radical reimagination of biology and space exploration. So these two type of question that combine the cultural element of the area with the radical reimagination of biotechnology would be the motivational two motivational question that guide this class. The class also have amazing staff in Thailand to deliver this amazing exciting new class. We have Professor Virasak from the Freak Lab and the Sensor Technology Lab, that is the head of the staff. We have Dr. Shairat, who is the course or coordinator. We have Dr. Varets, who also had like experiment with Blue Origin and has been one of the pioneer in space exploration in Southeast Asia. Dr. Nipitipon with background in microfabrication. Dr. Boy Unjai from Mahidol University and Freak Lab, who is going to share his expertise on biological engineering and synthetic biology. Dr. Tat Pong on plants and space exploration. Dr. Pirapong from NARIT, the National Observatory of Thailand for space, and Dr. Paskon, the new professor at KUMTT, who's going. All of them are going to support this class and allow the student to imagine and prototype the future space biotechnology project. And we could not create this class without the partnership from different organizations, from Freak Lab, the Space Lab, KMUTT, Mahidol University, Naresuan University, Jista, NARET, SIIT, and of course SpaceTH.co, our awesome partner. This team of faculty has also have like first-hand experience, as I mentioned before, designing experiment. In this case, was the experiment to test different condition of Asian space food, looking at smell and gas behavior in space, and also designing passive payload to deliver low-cost experiment in space. So this has been a very exciting project for them, and they will be able to share this expertise with the class. And for two important staff that the students should know are Professor Virasak, who is the head of the staff and also the director of Freak Lab and Sensor Technology Lab, and Dr. Shairat, who is the coordinator. He will be handling all the logistical thing. I am from the US, so I cannot help much with everything, but I will be supporting this team in launching this amazing class. We also try to make this class as open source as possible in the same way as the how to grow almost anything and how to make almost anything class at MIT. This class is open source and you can follow the class at astrobio.freaklab.org. We'll post the weekly content on this site, and on the weekly content there will be the homework section that the student need to kind of complete for our discussion in the next class. So the class material and the recording from the lecture and everything will be there, and student can kind of post the answer on this. They can post the sketch, the design, everything, and this will be kind of the documentation of the class. What would we expect from the class? This is the graduate level class, so we would love the student to engage fully with the class. We basically would love all the students to participate in the class, and also in the homework. This homework is very simple. It's an open-ended thought-provoking question that would kind of prompt the student going to the class to think about this idea that we're going to discuss. And finally, we'll have a final project, which also include midterm progress report and the final presentation. This project could be anything related to space food, biotech in space, space bacteria, and so on. So the student are going to be working with the team that work with the Blue Origin in delivering the one of the first payload from Thailand at the futuristic research cluster at the BRI building, and bringing anti-disciplinary research that I was inspired by the Media Lab to this. And hopefully with this anti-disciplinary research group at the Freak Lab and the experience of the people that have been working on space payload will allow students to come up with exciting and prototyping these exciting crazy idea. And of course, Freak Lab also has a lot of inspiration. freaklab.org will contain some of the inspiration for this futuristic research. And I would end this introductory session by quoting John F. Kennedy. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. This class is the first of its kind. Is the class that bring biotech and space together. We haven't done it before, but we think it's going to be exciting. We think it's going to be great, and we hope that it will inspire and become the model for the future space technology class. This class is also inspired by the Space Exploration Initiative at the MIT Media Lab, so go check that out as well. I am sort of like the bridge between the Media Lab and hopefully connecting that with the Freak Lab in Thailand, and allowing crazy idea to emerge in these two area. And that is the opening of Astrobiotech. We have amazing professor, invited speakers, and exercise in the class, so get ready and it's going to be awesome. Thank you.